Hello, it's Josh here from Sprint Depth. If you're watching this is going to be a Figma Library Basics training. So I'm going to get straight into it and keep my head out the way. This is all going to be a demo work, so none of this stuff you're going to see is actually applicable to your brand or other brands. I've made this very quickly, very generic white label stuff here that took about 2 minutes to build, so don't look closer to the design details. And like I said, this is not specific to your brand. This is just a top level basics overview of how the Figma libraries work, because I'm sure there's sometimes a few question marks. Maybe you understand it, but maybe when you're handing it over to a contractor or maybe a non-technical person and you want to give them a quick understanding of how the libraries work, just flick them this video. So to explain that further, this is not going to be Figma Basics in the fact that I'm not going to be showing you frames and groups and layers and page and assets we might do, but it's not going to be a technical thing of like type like this and this is how you draw a rectangle and this is how you make a corner radius. It's not going to be that. It's also not going to be getting around the file, which is maybe a little bit before basics even. That's like absolute basics, which will be, all of these properties down here, features like that. I'm not going to do that. So I'm not going to do any training on the actual designing as well. We are going to focus on the libraries. We're not going to focus on building the components. So we do all the building. We assemble the library and hand that over to you. So that's not going to be included in this. I'm just going to show you what to do basically when you have those assets in the library. We also definitely won't have time for any advanced tools and workflows. However, I will include a few tips and tricks that are around using the components and the library stuff. So before we go any further, let's break down what is in the library. Like I said, this is pretty quick. This isn't a proper presentation style. This is just so that we're all on the same page and we can visually look at this. What Figma libraries are made up of, you've got components, variables, and then styles, right? So the reason why I want to get this visually is I know I learn a lot better visually, right? So components are, for the easiest way to remember, is anything you see in a purple box, right? So I'll get to that in detail now. But for example, this you'll see in a purple box. That means it's a component. You'll also see all the properties on the right. That means it's a component. When you see, I'll get into this in detail now, but when you see it with this dashed bounding box and you see this component sign here, so if I can zoom in there, that means it's the master component. So that means whatever you change here will change across all instances, so this is an instance. You can see that diamond is just a single outline diamond. That's an instance. Whereas this one here is component set. This will be the master one. So if we hover over there, component, right? So those are the components. The components come with the properties of the variance, text, boolean, and instance swap. Those are very much on the back end, so we use that to build it, and those are the different properties you can toggle, but we label those properties so that it's a lot easier to understand. It'll just be like h1 yes or no, and you can toggle that on and off, and that's actually a boolean property. But for you'll just see the easy side, so you'll just see icon on yes or no. The variant means you can basically toggle that as well. It's a different type of property that, for example, could be light mode, dark mode, like this. When it is a variant, you'll see two types of components in the set. So this demo is a variant of the demo logo. So in this case, what that variant is, the property for this component set is logo. So this will be a lockup. That's a variant right there. And this is another variant that isn't been labeled, but that'll just say, we can call that icon or short or whatever logo we want to call that. Let's call it just the icon for now. So that's an example of variants. Then we've got, so that's all the component stuff. Easy to use. This is the easiest one to use on your side because we do all the complicated stuff and you just drag it out. I'll explain how to actually drag those out in a minute. So next we've got variables, which you'll see over here. And this again is very much on the back end that we use to build the colors, but you won't be editing with this. If you do, let me just show you. If you do, it will change everything globally across every single time you've ever used that color. So this is an absolute global universal master color. But if I had to show you, let's say we wanted to tweak this blue and we had to change that, you'll see every time that it's been used, it'll change. Same with this. This is a very short file that doesn't have many instances, but that is what the color variables are. So we've built these. You'll probably see it. This is just a quick demo, like I said, but you'll have master brand, you'll have typography, which I'll explain now. You'll have it separated, however the color logic and system is built, labeled over here. And then we've got the string values. So the string values, so the variables, you got color, number. To be honest, what we're handing over to you, there will be no numbers. We don't use numbers that often. String variables are basically text. So it's basically a way for you to make a variable of text. And one way to do that is, let's say we want to make a typeface. So the typeface here, if I go to all, primary typeface value, the value is Balto. So the value is actually those letters BALTO. And then every time you basically connect to that, so if I want to have a header here, detach that, and I want this to, let's detach that. Let's say this is outfit, for example, but I want this to be Balto, this demo brand's primary typeface, right? I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to click this apply variable, and I'm going to apply the primary typeface variable. That means it'll go to Balto, as you can see here, Balto. So that's one. That's again, you don't really need to fiddle with that too much, but just so you understand. Next we've got styles. So styles you'll use quite a bit. Inside styles we've got text styles, we've got color, we've got effects and layouts. So if I have to explain that to you here, you'll see on the right here, those are all the styles that you can constantly grab and plug and play with. So the text styles, I haven't included all of them just because I don't want to build a whole brand identity just for this demo, but this is what it'll look like, and these will all be linked to the type styles here. So if you have a designing and you want a header like that, and you want that to be an H3, you just press, at all times when you want to pull from the library, you want to press these 4 circles, right? So apply styles, that'll give you access to the sort of box of kits, toolkit of parts, right? Let's say you want to go H2, that'll link that to that H2, right? So those are your text styles on the right. If you ever do want to change these, you just press this edit style. You'll see again that's linked to the text variable. But if you want to maybe make this letter spacing, tracking slightly tighter, you can do that, and that'll update globally to everything linked to that H3 style. So that's really helpful. Another way we can do things is the color style. So just to be clear, we don't want to use, we've got color variables here, but we don't have color styles here. So these are specifically for gradients. So if you're designing and you just want a quick gradient, you can pick from the library and go down here to styles, and let's say you want that one, right? So that's an example of color styles. Like I said, you can add this as, some people would do it like this, where this is a style, like this, but that's a style. We don't want to use that color like that. We want to use the color from the variable, so like that, right? Okay, and then we've got effect styles. So these are quick few effect styles I've just made out of no context. Let's delete that. Okay, so if you're designing and you have a rectangle and you want to give this a noise effect, you just press that, and that's another example of effect styles. You've got drop shadows. If I had to show you here, you can do all of these things. Oh, let's not do that. So you can do drop shadow, layer blur, background blur, noise, texture, all that stuff. So we have done all of these for you, and you don't have to manually pick what drop shadow you like. If it's been saved, just press that and you're good to go. You can always detach that. So for example, if you take this drop shadow and you don't like that, just press this detach, and then you can edit it how you like. So, and then the next one, we've got layout grids, which is really helpful if you're designing. I'll show you in a new file in a second. But so you got layout grids, which is the last of the style. So that's top level what everything in the library looks like. Excuse me. And then now I'm going to just get to actual adding your library, making sure you got access to the library in new files. accessing that, some quick tips and tricks how to pull from the library, and some best practices. So what you're going to do, so this we'll do on the back end, but this needs to be published. Okay, so I've just gone and published that. So what you'll see, you go to assets up here, and then this will be, obviously not with this thumbnail, but you'll go in here and you'll have a quick look at everything inside your library. So this will be better labeled. This is just a quick demo, like I said. It'll have all your sections, so it'll say components, photography, best practices, etc. So this is just a few things that I've made for this file, but you can always add this, and I want to show you on a separate file. So this is the file we're going to give you, which will have the brand guidelines and then the demo. I mean, it'll be called component library. But let's say you want to go to a new page, right? So this is a complete new file that I've just made right now, and you want to basically be able to use that library. So one way to do it is go to assets and browse team libraries and add it like that. Another way is if you literally just copy, paste it inside. It'll tell you, if you look up right here, it's pulling from the library demo. So yours will be called brand library or brand master brand guidelines. And now we basically go to assets. It'll say we want to basically go to this little book, which is the library. We want to say used in this file is this library. So we want to just, okay, cool, let's add that full library to this file. So now if you ever, let's say you want a 4x5 and you're busy designing, so this is how we actually use this stuff. Now you've got access to everything here. So let's say you want CTA button, you can click this, you can then change this to whatever that may be. You can change this to whatever the photo might be. So that's one way to drag things. You can maybe say, okay, I want the logo, bang. And now I'm going to just quickly design for you super freestyle and using all those bits from the component library. So that's one way to drag from your library. Another way, if we go to file and you're designing here, you want the background to be, you always want to pick from the library using, like I mentioned, these 4 circles. So apply styles and variables. Here's all the colors. So you want to always pick from this. So let's say you want the blue background. There you go. Let's say you want type. So you want to say big demo here. Sure, there can be better copywriting, but we're going to go H1, boom. So when it comes to the components like this, components aren't always locked to the color, just because there'll be about 50 different variants. So when it comes to component, you can change the variant here. So let's say we just want the icon, but the color you can change manually. So let's say we want this to be a highlight version of the blue. We want the big header there, and we want one of these components. So when you drag in that component out, what you want to be doing is, so this, it'll look like this, all your master components, and this isn't an auto layout, so I can understand you might have some trouble, click, you have to basically double click getting through there, but it's just the best way to do it. So I've written here, always duplicate out. You absolutely don't, big exclamation marks around this. You don't want to drag it out like that. See, like I mentioned, those double diamonds, or 4 diamonds means it's the master, so you don't want that. You want to click on the single one and hold an option and slide that out so it's a duplicate. As I said, you look at that, it's a single outlined diamond, which means it's an instance. Another way to do that is if you want to just Command C and then Command V. Oh no, you see there, that's a master, so don't do that. I would just duplicate that out. So now you've got this, let's say we Command X, and now you're playing around in this page here. So like I mentioned, a few tips and tricks. If this is a component and you want this to be bigger, press K. So just press K and it gives you the scale panel here where you can then, you see when that those arrows have got multiple arrow tips, that means you're in scale mode. So you can scale this to however big you like. Like I mentioned, the colors are fully customizable. So let's say we want this to be dark blue, we want that pink. Let's say we can remove the drop shadow. Let's say we want that pink to be our blue. We want that to be our blue as well, etc. Then, so your components will be custom built for you, and they'll be very Some will be very complex, some will be very simple, and the properties panel on the right here will vary a lot. So when there will be a separate loom that actually explains your specific components in detail, but a top level of how they will look is you've got, like I mentioned, the Boolean properties, which is you just toggle it on and off, and you've got the text properties, and then you've got the variants up here. Like I mentioned, the variants, you might still want to change the color. So if we wanted that to be pink, you just change that manually down there. Another thing that a few problems we see people run into with the components is the hug and fixed, just the resizing properties. So for example, let's test this out. If we say demo header here, let's say you type really long header, and let's say it doesn't do that. Let's say it does that, right? You've run into a bit of a problem. Make sure that this, like I said, I don't want to go into the full basics of the design bits of Figma, but long story short, you want to just make sure that's hug. So it's always hugging to the furthest width. Same with the height. You don't want that, if that's cutting up like that, you want that to be hug contents. So that's a quick example of some problems we see you run into. For example, when there's some bits like these you can't tweak that on the properties panel, right? So what you can either do is two ways. You can either come in here and actually drag this, or it depends on the way the component's built, but right now these are undraggable. So what you want to do is right click, detach instance. Now I know you don't want to detach every component, but sometimes you do want to. So then you can come in here and then you can use this. You might have to get a little bit designy with it. For example, that's going to need to be full. We just can't build everything ever in components, right? And then you can do whatever you want to do here. That's just an example, quick example. So let's say we want that up there, press K, drop that here. Now another cool tip and trick is if you press Command K, basically takes you to the search bar, actions bar, right? And if you go to assets, let's say I want to quickly type in, I'm quickly typing in here, I want CTA button. It's gonna just give you that, and you want to change that to light. Press K again, drag that up, and there you go. So another look into the text properties for a component. You just want to change this to buy now, whatever that may be. Let's say you want to toggle that arrow off. Boom. Let's say you want to change the color to bright pink. Let's say you want to change that to pink highlight. And there you go. You got a lovely poster. Not quite, but you know what I mean. So another example, which is quite oftenly used, is the grids. So you want to grab from the library here. I haven't loaded in all the grids. You'll have way more grids, but this is just a quick example. You'll have portrait. Let's say you want that in there. Look at that, already to the grid. There you go. Let's say we're doing a long one. A 16 by 9 for like an investor deck or something. I am a bit of a geek with the file naming, but we're going to call this like that. Let's say you want the color. So bright red, layout grid, you want that to be L for landscape. Okay, maybe not bright red. You want to bring in that logo again, so we can go Command K, assets, logo. There you go. Shift G if you want the grids on. Let's say we want those colors. We want that to be like that. We want our text here, and we want our other button here. So we detach this, remember, so it's in blue, so it's not purple, so it's not a component. Let's see what else we have in our library. Let's say we want the icons. So again, what I'm doing here is copying and pasting that in, and you know you're good because it's got a single diamond, so it's an instance. Command K if you want to make that bigger, change this to, maybe that's an image, whatever that may be, change the color, maybe you want that to be blue, etc. So some components, for this for example, if we, oh wait, that is the detached version. Let's try go here. If we want that button here, okay, make that bigger, and basically we don't need to know the complex side of it, but there's a component within this component. So when it says here icon on, you basically get to toggle that component as well. So let's say we want this to be an image. There you go. So that's cool. Let's say if we want to, we've done this for imagery as well. So let's say if you want a big image, you can pick from the image library here. These are just random images. So there you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. You can then Command K, put that in there, make sure that's centered. If there's complex built components, you're going to want to sometimes make sure, for example, if this one's been a different size and you're basically toggling through and the one comes out at a funny, it's arranged, not perfectly. You want to just make sure it's centered, etc. And that these are your building blocks that you can start to use, right? So some of these have been built to be detached. Not everything can be built from a component point of view, but this is a rough look at everything you have. I think that's everything. Just remember to duplicate out here. The photography, if you want to ever add in the future, you want to build on this library. So let me quickly focus on that. Let me just grab an image. Okay, so I've just grabbed an image. I don't know what brand we're building here, but let's say we paste that in, and as you can see, blue bounding box means it's not a component, and you want to add this to the library. I know this is a little bit complex, but I'm going to add it while we're here. So first thing you want to do is make sure it's the same size as whatever you have. So let's say all of these are height 1500 pixels, so you can press K on 500, and now basically this is ready to drag in there. So what you want to do first thing is make it a component, so create component like this, or option Command K. There you go. So the title is image 5, which is untidy right now, but that's not a problem. Here you're going to want to drag this. So basically you want to press Command X. So you've got on your clipboard, and you want to make sure you selected this purple bounding box. The purple bounding box with the dashed stroke is always the master component set, and then Command V, and that's in. So there it is there. We want to just make sure that is hug, and there you've got it. So if I pull this here, it's in the set, but basically it's still going to be labeled whatever this was. It was labeled #5, which is a bit untidy, so we want to just come in here and rechange this to 05, and now you've got it as part of the library that you can pick from. Same with the icons. If you want to add icons, make sure as long as these are, it should be as long as these are 24 pixels high, just make sure it mirrors the way these have all been built, which has a responsive hug on the width and a set height to 24 pixels. That's pretty much everything from there. If you want to ever tweak the typography like I mentioned, you could change that. If you want to add more color styles, effect styles, please feel free to, whereas the other stuff is a little bit more locked in. We don't want to tweak with that stuff. And yeah, if there's ever a new color, for example, you want to just create variable color, and this could maybe be like campaign specific or whatever this may be, feel free to add it there. If you want to make this tidy, you can say, or even maybe these are UI colors, just add it here, and there you go. So another quick tip before I go, if you're building and designing and you basically got a rectangle and you want this to be blue, so just I on your keyboard is the eyedropper, which is a pretty simple workflow. But if you see the detail here, this is the exact hex code, so it's the exact blue, but it's not linked to our master brand variables, right? So what you want to do here is just, let's say this is green, whatever, just I and hold in shift. So hold in shift and then hover over your color, and you can see there it toggles to from HSL to blue there. So that means it's basically picking the exact color that's in our library, if you can see there. So this way, if we ever change that color in the master, if I toggle to the master brand library, and let's say we go here, let me actually show you. So if this one, we pick an eyedropper without holding shift, this is going to be independent or exclusive from the library. So if we come here, we change the master reds highlight. Let's say we want to make this like bright yellow. What you're going to want to do is, if you're ever making changes to the master library, you're going to go here, it's going to basically tell you there's been 3 changes, so that hasn't been updated yet. You want to press publish. It's going to say, okay, you're making a change to the photography, which we did. We added that new image. You're going to tick that and say, yes, I want that to be pushed across everything. Yes, we made a change to the demo card, and we've added that color. So we changed that red highlight, and we added that campaign specific color. So it's basically telling you, do you want to make these changes? And you can always say, if you're pushing a change across multiple different files, you can always say, watch out, new red highlight, ask me for any cues, or something like that. You can just push a message, and we leave that publish. So give that a second to load. Publishing the library. Okay, so that's done, and then we'll see here that that'll be updated. So this won't be updated just yet. You're going to want to go library here, and then you're going to say update all, and there you go. It should be updated, right? So, but like I mentioned, this one here wasn't linked to, you see when it's in that sort of bounding box, it means it's attached, whereas this one was not attached. It's the exact same hex code, but it's not attached, and that change wasn't updated, right? The same applies to the components, etc. But the components, like we said, I wouldn't fiddle too much with that. So that is everything from a top level Figma library overview. If there are any specific problems, either watch your custom handover loom, or feel free to ping us at Sprint Depth, hey at Sprint Depth, or go at Sprint Depth. I'm more than happy to get on a call and help you with any troubleshoot, any custom specific technical problems. So until then, happy designing, and we'll see you around. Cheers.